The Wallop Story, How I Learned to Stop the Bullying by Steve Breakstone and Mike Dryblatt. Illustrations by D.M. Eason. Chapter 1. When I was younger, I had a lot of friends. I didn't even have to make friends. As far back as I could remember, I just had them. Preschool and kindergarten, first, second, third grade. I always had nice kids to play with. Life was great. And then life changed. My father started a new job, and one evening he sat down with me and he said, "We are going to move." And Mom said, "It'll be fun. You'll make lots of new friends." Dad and Mom made moving sound great. They told me I would start a new school at the end of the summer, and we were all very excited about the new adventure. And as usual, when the school year ended, I went off to summer camp. And my camp friends and I spent the days playing softball and swimming, climbing trees, having campfires, and doing arts and crafts. It was another great summer. And by the end of summer, my parents moved us into our new home. Chapter 2. In the past, the beginning of every new school year was exciting for me because I would see all the friends I hadn't seen all summer. But the beginning of this school year was different. I didn't know anyone. Until I walked into my new school, I hadn't thought much about how my life had changed. The only thing that was familiar was Mom by my side. She introduced me to the school counselor, Mr. Beck, and then headed home. "Have a great first day," she said. "I'll see you later." Mr. Beck seemed pretty nice. We talked about my summer camp as we walked to my new classroom, where he introduced me to my new teacher, Mrs. Novak. She assigned me a desk. I sat down and opened my book bag, flipped through some things, and waited for class to begin. Then I heard some kids whispering. "That's the new kid." And, "Yep, that's him all right." And then I'm sure I heard one kid ask, "You think he's cool?" Huh. Boy, did that get me thinking. I mean, am I cool? I think I'm cool. Maybe I'm cool. Am I cool? I was cool in my old school. Well, at lunch I sat alone and then went outside for recess. And I walked around by myself, and after a while I watched a bunch of kids play soccer. They were pretty good. I wasn't much of a soccer player. Boy, I wish they played softball, I thought. I mean, I'm great at softball. If they were playing softball, then I'd really show them how cool I was. And I was thinking about that when I heard some kids calling my name, and the soccer ball was kicked out of bounds and was coming my way. And I got excited, and I went to kick the ball back to them, but the ball slipped off my foot and went wide, and I heard someone say, "Nah, the new kid's a loser." They laughed and went back to their game. That really hurt my feelings. I was so embarrassed. Chapter 3. "So, how was your first day?" Mom asked later. "Okay, I guess. I was still upset about being called a loser. I didn't really feel like talking." "Did you make any friends?" "No, not yet." "Well, it's really tough making new friends," Mom said. "But don't worry, just be nice. Be funny. You're a great kid. Just be yourself and you'll make friends in no time." Well, I went to my room to think about what Mom said. How exactly do you make a friend? I wondered. What does just be yourself mean? And be funny? Well, that's hard. I mean, I like to laugh and have fun, but am I funny? I mean, did she mean I should tell jokes? I don't know any jokes. Should I buy a joke book? I had more questions than answers. Well, I knew she meant well, but, I didn't think Mom knew what it was like to be a new kid in a new school. I mean, maybe I should have talked to her about my feelings and thoughts, but I didn't. I was so confused, I just ended up watching TV. And the next day, I walked to school and didn't talk to anyone. I actually felt lousy. I went straight to class and sat in my seat. And at lunch, it was the same thing as the day before. No one came over to eat with me. I ate by myself. And outside I had nothing better to do but walk around by myself. There was just no one for me to play with. And I was walking around, not paying much attention to anything, when all of a sudden, some kids started making fun of me and laughing. I felt awful. And looked down at the ground and quietly said, "Oh, come on, guys, cut it out, will ya?" But they didn't. "Where'd you get those sneakers?" "The garbage," said Andy. "And that shirt, is that from the girls' department?" added Denise. "Oh, come on, knock it off," I grumbled. But that wasn't the right thing to say either. "Wah, wah, wah, you sound like my baby sister," Leon said, making them all laugh. They made fun of everything I said and how I said it. I couldn't do or say anything right. I felt my face scrunch up and turn red, and I put my head down and walked off, and once again they just laughed and laughed. I hated this school. And the absolute worst day was when Andy, the main bully, and his friends Leon and Denise came up to me at recess and said, "Ha, this kid thinks he's so smart. I heard he answers all the questions, but most of what he says is stupid. We know that you're dumb. Hey, let's see if you're a wimp too." Then he pushed me. Well, I wasn't physically hurt, but I was surprised. I didn't know what to do. I'd never been in a fight. I was more confused than anything else. It was one thing when they were making fun of me, but now they want to fight? For no reason? This never happened in my old school. I'm not sure where all the adults were, but they were nowhere to be seen. Other kids had heard Andy threaten and push me, and they started to gather around, and I was embarrassed and scared. Some of the kids were laughing. Even some of the kids from my class who I thought were nice were making fun of me. My mind was a jumble. I didn't know what to do, so I just slunk off with my head sinking into my shoulders like a scared turtle. Well, I felt a lot of feelings all at the same time. I was mad, scared, sad, embarrassed, and confused. And these feelings keep running through my head. Boy, I was so distracted, I didn't hear one thing that Mrs. Novak said in class that afternoon. And that night, when my father came home, he noticed me moping around, and he asked, "How's it going?" Well, I was kind of glad that Dad asked, but I didn't really want to answer him. I didn't want my parents to think their kid was a loser. I didn't know what to say. I looked at my father and with a shrug of my shoulders mumbled, "All right, I guess." I didn't fool him for a second. "Come on, Steve. You've been moping around for days. What's going on?" Well, I paused for a moment, and then I just let it out. Fast and furious. "I hate it here. I hate the school. The kids are stupid. They all pick on me and make fun of me and everything. Can't we just move back to where all my friends are?" Well, he listened, and then he calmly said, "Steve, first of all, we're not moving back. We just moved here. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's just the way it is." Well, I knew my father wasn't going to say, "Okay, we'll move back to where we used to live," but I was hoping. And still, it felt kind of good to just get my feelings out. But then Dad added, "Well, I'll tell you what, Steve. If somebody picked on me, you know what I do?" I paused for a moment, and he looked me straight in the eye. And I looked up at him, waiting for his suggestion. And finally, standing straight and tall with his hands by his side, he said, "I'd wallop him. That's what I'd do. I'd wallop him." Of course, I thought. What he said made perfect sense. My back straightened and my shoulders squared, and I felt strong. "Yeah," I said with growing confidence. "Yeah, I'll wallop him. Yeah, all right, Dad. Yeah, thanks, Dad." And for the first time since summer camp, I felt good about myself. Why hadn't I talked to Dad about my problem the first day it happened, I thought. And I went to my bedroom and I felt great. I had a plan. I'd wallop him. Wait a second. What exactly does wallop mean? Then I pictured my favorite cartoons and I realized, oh, I get it. Wallop him. That means hit him, smash him, pulverize him. Yeah, pow, kabam, boom. Yeah, that's it. And I stood in front of the mirror, the bedroom mirror, and I practiced walloping. And I punched and I kicked and I karate chopped. And I made up a few other moves too. Oh, I felt good. I felt real good. And I fought that reflection in the mirror, and I imagined how I would fight anybody who challenged me. I was the world champ. You know what? That mirror never laid a hand on me. And that night, I felt great. Chapter 4. And the next day, I just waited for the bullies to come around and challenge me to a fight. Oh, I was ready to do some walloping. I was feeling and walking around like the confident kid I used to be. And wouldn't you know it, the bullies left me alone. I sat alone at lunch and walked around the recess field by myself. And, well, I didn't know where the bullies were, but they were nowhere to be found. They weren't anywhere near me. Part of me was a little nervous, but part of me wanted to fight. I wanted to do some walloping. But there wasn't going to be any walloping that day. And that night, Dad asked me how my day went and if I had any problems with those mean kids. Nope, I said. But they didn't even come near me. But I'm ready to start doing some walloping. Glad you didn't have any problems, Steve. But I don't want you to start a fight. I just want you to protect yourself, Dad said. I should have made that more clear. When I said wallop, I meant that if anybody goes to hit you, you have the right to defend yourself. You don't hit first, you understand? I nodded my head yes. Well, 2 days went by, and I was still ready to wallop Andy or anyone else who picked on me. And it seemed like just when I was ready to take on the bullies left me alone. Everything else was the same, though. I didn't talk much in class anymore, and I still ate lunch by myself, and I walked around the recess field alone. But then, finally, it happened. At recess, I walked further away from the school than usual. And then I heard the bullies behind me. There was Andy, Leon, and Denise, and a bunch of the other kids too. And Andy, the bully with the biggest mouth, started making fun of me. He put down what I was wearing and how I walked and my hair and, well, all the usual insults. And the others added insults too. And then Andy challenged me to a fight. Let's see how tough the new kid really is, Andy said to the other kids. Yeah, let's see, I heard someone say. They all wanted me to fight. My heart began to pound, and I felt like it was about to explode. I was actually stunned and scared. My confidence was completely drained out of my body. I saw 3 bullies in front and other kids behind them, and I froze. Wallop? No way. I was in no position to wallop anybody. I looked down at my shoes and mumbled, "Oh, leave me alone, will ya?" And I slinked off as they laughed and shouted insults, and, well, I felt defeated. I wasn't hit even once, but I felt like a total loser. I wondered how I'd ever live this down. I was so angry, mad, embarrassed. I wanted to cry and hit something, but, well, I didn't do either. And I couldn't talk to anyone about it. It was just too embarrassing. And I replayed the scene over and over and over again in my head. And I realized I didn't know how to wallop anyone. I didn't know how to fight. I had never been in a real fight in my life. And if I hit somebody, they were going to hit back. Maybe all of them would hit me. Practicing fighting in my bedroom mirror was not good practice at all. I felt like a big, stupid loser. And I was mad at the kids, the school, and myself. I was also mad at Dad. Dad didn't teach me how to fight. He didn't teach me self-defense. He didn't teach me anything. All he said was, wallop 'em. Well, if he expected me to defend myself, he should have taught me how to defend myself. How could I wallop anyone if I never walloped anything in my life? And that evening, when Dad asked me about my day, I just said, fine. And he said, good for you. And that was that. And that night, I couldn't fall asleep. I laid in the darkness thinking about how I couldn't stand up for myself. and how I couldn't defend myself. I mean, maybe I could have fought one bully, but there was no way I could stand up to so many of them. And I felt like a coward, and that feeling rolled around my head over and over and over again. And then finally I realized those kids never bullied me in front of an adult. I mean, they only messed with me when I was alone, far away from any adults. They never said or did anything mean in class. They didn't even bother me when I was eating lunch, probably because the lunchroom lady was always nearby. Hey, I thought to myself, from now on, I'll just hang out by the adults. It's not like I do much at recess anyway. And I felt like that was a pretty good plan, and it helped me to relax and fall asleep. And the next day, that's what I did. I hung out near an adult. One of the recess monitors, I didn't even know her name, always stood by the basketball court, so that's where I stayed. I mean, some kids played basketball, but I didn't really know any of them, so I didn't ask to join. I mean, I wasn't much of a basketball player. I mean, I wasn't bad, but I wasn't too good either. I had nothing to do, so I picked up a basketball and started shooting at a hoop no one was using. At first, I missed a lot, and I had to keep running after the ball, but no one bothered me. And then I imagined that I was in a real basketball game. I made believe that people were trying to steal the ball from me, and I had to dribble away from them. And I also imagined that teammates were passing the ball to me, and that I had to catch it, and I had to shoot. Well, to anybody watching, it just looked like I was practicing. But in my mind, I was playing a game. And I played ball at home too. We didn't have a hoop, so I ran up and down the sidewalk, dribbling the basketball, making believe I was playing a game. And on the weekend, Dad and I played basketball at the school. And after a few days, actually, I was much better. More and more balls were going through the hoop. And then one day at recess, one of the kids from my class came over and said, "Hey, you're pretty good. You want to play?" "Yeah, sure," I said. Mickey seemed like a nice kid. I mean, we never talked in class, but he never bothered me, and he didn't hang out with the other bullies. I mean, he was pretty good at basketball too, and soon a couple of his friends joined us. And that was the first day I walked back to class after recess with other kids. Hey, I think I just made some friends, I thought to myself. Chapter 5. And life started getting better after that. Mickey and Sophia and Tasha and Daryl and I played basketball each day at recess and sometimes after school too. Andy, Leon, and Denise didn't bother me anymore, mostly because I didn't give them a chance. I hung out with my friends and the bullies didn't mess with them. So one day, I asked my friends, "Why don't Andy and those other bullies mess with you?" "Oh, they used to say mean things to me," Mickey said. "But, I didn't care, and they knew it. I just walked away from them when they acted like that. I ignored them. I mean, they weren't just worth my time. I didn't react to them. I guess I was too boring to bully, so they stopped." "Yeah, but didn't it bother you when they insulted you and everybody laughed?" I asked. "Didn't you just want to wallop them?" "Oh, yeah, it bothered me, but I didn't let them know it. I didn't cry or stomp my feet or clench my teeth or anything," he said. "And believe me," Daryl added, "ignoring people when they're making fun of you or threatening you is really, really hard." At first, I got so mad and I wanted to hit them. But I knew that if I hit them just because they said stupid, annoying things, I would be the one getting into trouble, Mickey continued. "And besides, there's a bunch of them. I'd be the one getting beat up. See, even when they called me names or threatened me, I just walked away like I didn't care. Like this." Mickey turned and he walked away from us toward the school. Now, at first, it didn't seem like he was really doing anything special. Then I noticed what he meant. I mean, he walked with his head up and his back straight, like he would normally walk when he had to go from one place to another. He didn't show that he was upset, defeated, or scared of anything. He was just walking away. I mean, he looked confident, and there was a quiet strength to the way he walked. Sometimes, though, when it happened to me, Sophia said, I had to tell them to cut it out. Ignoring didn't work for me. I had to tell him to stop it. I did say that, but it didn't help, I said. You have to make sure that you say it with confidence. Even if you're nervous, you got to make sure that you don't mumble or whine. If they really bugged me or they followed me when I did walk away, I would turn towards them. I would look them straight in the eye, and I would strongly say, cut it out. Then she added, let me show you. So Sophia moved to stand about 2 arms length away from me. And she looked me right in the eye, and with a serious voice, she said, cut it out. Then she turned and walked away, just like Mickey did earlier, with her head up and her back straight. It wasn't only what she said, but it was how she said it. That's what made the word so powerful. But sometimes, when you're walking away, the bullies may still call out just a few more insults, said Sophia. And if they do, you have to ignore it and keep walking, added Tasha. So it helps to walk towards your friends or other people. Remember, there's strength in numbers. Of course, you could always walk to where there are adults. And if that doesn't work, and they keep following you, or they do it every day, you got to talk to a cool adult like Mr. Beck, said Daryl. And if I can't solve a problem myself, I go to an adult I trust so that we can figure it out together. Yeah, but isn't that tattling, I asked? I don't want to be known as a tattletale. Then Mickey chimed in. That's not tattling, that's telling. The bullies may call you a tattler or a snitch or something just to stop you from getting help so they can keep bullying you. That's a trick of theirs. Come on, let's practice, Sophia suggested, like I did with my parents. Chapter 6. A few days later, I was in the school bathroom when Andy walked in. As soon as I saw him, I started making my way towards the door. And he blocked my way, and he said, "Hey, look who's here, the dweeb." I tried to ignore him as my heart started to pound. Next, he said, "Hey, aren't you in the wrong bathroom? The girls' room is across the hall," Andy added with a snort of laughter. I decided to practice what Sophia, Mickey, Tasha, and Daryl had taught me. And I stood up straight and with my head up, and I acted as if he wasn't bugging me at all, just like I practiced with my friends. I acted confidently, but I could definitely feel that my heart was racing. I was feeling scared and nervous, and I wanted to run, and I wondered if Andy could hear how hard my heart was actually pounding. It felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. And then he continued. "Yeah, the girls' room. That's probably where you left your makeup. And believe me, you need it." There was just no way I could ignore him. Ignoring him wasn't working. There was just so much insulting I was willing to take. There was only so much insulting I should stand there and take. And deep down in my gut, I really felt like walloping him. But fortunately, my brain took over. And I turned towards Andy, and I looked him right in the eye, and I said with a confident tone, "Andy, cut it out." And with my head up and my back straight, I walked around him, turned towards the door, and walked out. And with a slight turn of my head, I looked to see if Andy was following me. "Loser," he sneered. And the door closed. And I was on the outside of the bathroom. And Andy was still on the inside. And he didn't come after me. He may have made more insults about me, but I couldn't hear them, and you know what? I didn't even care. Wow! My heart was racing, but I was feeling kind of shaky, but I felt great. Was that it? Was it that simple? Actually, it wasn't all that simple at all. But it wasn't that hard either. It only took a few seconds, but I told the bully to cut it out just as I had practiced. And I was proud. I spoke strongly, and I was in control, and I didn't wallop anyone. I didn't have to punch anyone in the nose, but I stood up to the bully. I didn't mumble, I didn't whine, and my head didn't shrink into my shoulders like a scared little turtle. Those days were over. And I felt my face smile and my eyes light up and my heart was thumping. But hey, all was cool. I was feeling a bit freaky on the inside, but I was COOL cool. And that's what I was thinking and feeling as I walked back to my classroom. And after that, Andy stopped coming over and saying things. Although sometimes he and the others would look in my direction and point. And, well, I don't know for a fact that they were saying things about me, but I began to realize I just didn't care. What I did care about is that I no longer felt picked on, helpless, or like a loser. I felt strong. And that was the beginning of enjoying my new home and my new school. And my new friends, Mickey, Sophia, Tasha, and Daryl, and I played basketball and sometimes soccer too. I mean, we were together all the time, sometimes just hanging out and sometimes doing stuff. And sometimes other kids joined us too. And then I made even more friends when I joined band and the karate class. And like my dad and my karate teacher said, you'll learn martial arts not to wallop anyone, but to make sure you could defend yourself if someone wants to wallop you. Well, I like school again. I had forgotten how much I had missed that feeling. I mean, sometimes kids said mean things to me, but, not all that often. And when they did, I did what my friends suggested. Sometimes I ignored them, and other times I used a strong voice to tell the bullies to stop. And then I would just walk away with pride and confidence. I felt good about myself and felt like the cool kid that I knew I was. The end. Hi, I'm Steve Breakstone. Standing up to bullies is very difficult. Yet, it's an important skill to master for challenges throughout life. We strongly suggest that children work with adults to practice all the skills that Steve and his friends discussed and practiced in The Wallop Story. The Wallop Story book includes a bullying prevention guide and step-by-step instructions and role-playing suggestions to practice how to effectively ignore and walk away from bullying behavior, and how to confidently, but not aggressively, tell bullies to stop or back off. We firmly believe that discussing and role-playing with trusted adults in the safety of the home or classroom is extremely important in creating the confidence to stand up to bullies. For even more details of preventing bullying and creating healthy friendships, we suggest checking out our other book, How to Stop Bullying and Social Aggression. We wish you all peace and happy days.